and he began to holler, "Help! Murder! Elkins is killing me!" "It's a yaller dog plot!" somebody howled, and the next instant the air was full of beer mugs and cuspidors. Some of them spittoons was quite heavy, and when one missed me and went bong on Snake River's head, he curled up like a angleworm which has been tromped on. "Look at there!" they hollered, like it was my fault. "He's trying to kill Snake River! Get him, boys!" They then fell on me with billiard sticks and chair legs in a way which has made me suspicious of Alderville's hospitality ever since. Argument being useless, I tucked Snake River under my left arm and started knocking them fool critters right and left with my right fist, and I reckon that was how the bar got wrecked. I never seen a bar a man's head would go through easier than that'n. So pretty soon the survivors abandoned the fray and run out of the door hollering, "Help! Murder! Rise up, citizens! Yeller dog is at our throats! Rise and defend your homes and loved ones!" You would have thought the Apaches was burning the town, the way folks was hollering and running for their guns and shooting at me, as I clumb aboard Captain Kidd and headed for Yeller Dog. I left the main road and headed through the brush for an old trail I knowed about, 'cause I seen a whole army of men getting on their hosses to lick out after me, and while I knowed they couldn't catch Captain Kidd, I was afeared they might hit Snake River with a stray bullet if they got within range. The brush was pretty thick, and I reckon it was the branches slapping him in the face which brung him to, because all to once he begun hollering blue murder. "You ain't taking me to Yeller Dog," he yelled. "You're taking me out in the hills to murder me. Help! Help!" "Ah, shut up!" I snorted. "This here's a shortcut." "You can't get across Apache River unless you follow the road to the bridge," says he. "I can too," I says. "We'll go across on the footbridge." With that he gave a scream of horror and a convulsive wrench which tore himself clean out of his shirt which I was holding on to. Next thing I knowed, all I had in my hand was a empty shirt, and he was on the ground and scuttling through the bushes. I'd taken in after him, but he was pretty tricky dodging around stumps and trees, and I begun to believe I was going to have to shoot him in the hind leg to catch him when he made the mistake of trying to climb a tree. I rode up onto him before he could get out of reach, and reached up and got him by the leg and pulled him down, and his language was painful to hear. It was his own fault he slipped out of my hand, he kicked so violent. I didn't go to drop him on his head, but just as I was retching down for him I heard hosses running, and looked up, and here come that derned Alderville posse busting through the brush right onto me. I'd lost so much time chasing Snake River they'd catched up with me. So I scooped him up and hung him over my saddle horn, because he was out cold, and headed for Apache River. Captain Kidd drawed away from them hosses like they was hobbled, so they weren't scarcely in pistol range of us when we busted out on the east bank. The river was up, just a foaming and a biling, and the footbridge warn't nothing only just a log. But Captain Kidd's sure-footed as a billy goat. We started across it, and everything went all right till we got about the middle of it, and then Snake River come to and seen the water booming along under us. He lost his head and began to struggle and kick and holler, and his spurs scratched Captain Kidd's hide. That made Captain Kidd mad, and he turned his head and tried to bite my leg, 'cause he always blames me for everything that happens, and he lost his balance and fell off. That would have been all right too, because as we hit the water I got hold of Captain Kidd's tail with one hand and Snake River's undershirt with the other, and Captain Kidd hid out for the west bank. They's very few streams he can't swim, flood or not. But just as we was nearly across, the posse appeared on the hind bank and started shooting at me, and they was apparently in some doubt as to which head in the water was me, because some of 'em shot at Snake River too, just to make sure. He opened his mouth to holler at 'em, and got it full of water, and dern near strangled. Then all to onct somebody in the bresh on the west shore opened up with a Winchester, and one of the posse hollered, "Look out, boys! It's a trap! Elkins has led us into an ambush." They turned round and hightailed it for Alderville. Well, what with the shooting and a gullet full of water, Snake River was having a regular fit, and he kicked and thrashed so he kicked himself clean out of his undershirt, and just as my feet hit bottom, he slipped out of my grip and went whirling off downstream. I jumped out on land, ignoring the hearty kick Captain Kidd planted in my midriff, and grabbed my lariat off my saddle. Gooseneck Wilkerson come prancing out of the brush, waving a Winchester and yelling, "Don't let him drown, dang yer! My whole campaign depends on that spelling bee. Do something!" I run along the bank and made a throw, and looped Snake River round the ears. It warn't a very good catch, but the best I could do under the circumstances, and skin'll always grow back onto a man's ears. I hauled him out of the river, and it was plumb ungrateful for him to accuse me later of dragging him over them sharp rocks on purpose. I like to know how he figured I could rope him out of a patchy river without skinning him up a little. He'd swallered so much water he was nigh at his last gasp. Gooseneck rolled him onto his belly and jumped up and down on his back with both feet to get the water out. Gooseneck said that was artificial respiration, but from the way Snake River hollered, I don't believe it done him much good. Anyway, he choked up several gallons of water. When he was able to threaten our lives betwixt cuss words, Gooseneck says, "Git him on your hoss and let's git started. Mine run off when the shooting started. I jest suspected you'd be pursued by them dumb wits and would take the short cut. That's why I come to meet you. Come on, we gotta get Snake River some medical attention. In his present state, he ain't in no shape to conduct no spelling match." Snake River was too groggy to set in the saddle, so we hung him across it like a cowhide over a fence and started out, me leading Captain Kidd. It makes Captain Kidd very mad to have anybody but me on his back, so we hadn't went more'n a mile when he retched around and sawed his teeth in the seat of Snake River's pants. Snake River'd been groaning very weak and dismal, and commanding us to stop and let him down so's he could utter his last words. But when Captain Kidd bid him, he let out a remarkable strong yell, and bust into language unfit for a dying man. "Expletive deleted!" quoth he passionately. "Why have I got to be butchered for a yeller dog holiday?" We was reasoning with him when old man Jake Hansen hove out of the bushes. Old Jake had a cabin 100 yards back from the trail. He was about the width of a barn door, and his whiskers was marvelous to behold. "What's this ungodly noise about?" he demanded. "Who's getting murdered?" "I am," says Snake River fiercely. "I'm being sacrificed to the passions of the brutal mob." "You shut up," said Gooseneck severely. "Jake, this is the gent we've consented to let conduct the spelling match." "Well, well," says Jake, interested. "A educated man, hey? Why, he don't look no different from us folks if the blood were wiped off of him. Say, listen, boys. Bring him over to my cabin. I'll dress his wounds and feed him, and take care of him and get him to the city hall tomorrow night in time for the spelling match. In the meantime, he can teach my daughter Salome her letters." "I refuse to tutor a dirty-faced cub," began Snake River, when he seen a face peeking eagerly at us from the trees. "Who's that?" he demanded. "My daughter Salome," said old Jake. 19 her last birthday, and can't neither read nor write. None of my folks ever could, far back as family history goes, but I want her to get some education." "It's a human obligation," says Snake River. "I'll do it." So